The bodies of 6 hostages were recovered by the Israeli military during an operation in the Gaza Strip, as protests calling for a ceasefire continue. All 6 of the hostages were killed just before Israeli forces could rescue them, according to an Israeli military spokesperson. The bodies were recovered from a tunnel in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, around a kilometre from where another hostage was rescued alive last week. Their recovery sparked further protests against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Families of hostages, as well as much of the Israeli public, blame him for failing to strike a deal with Hamas to end the ongoing war and bring the hostages back alive. Netanyahu says the killings prove that Hamas does not want the ceasefire deal. Negotiations have dragged on for months.
Students in Greece will be required to keep their mobile phones in their school bags at all times during lessons when the new academic year starts in September. The new regulations were announced on Saturday by Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis.
Τα επιστημονικά δεδομένα πια για το πώς η χρήση του κινητού κατά τη διάρκεια της ημέρας στο σχολείο επηρεάζει την ίδια τη μαθησιακή διαδικασία είναι καταλυτικά, από την διάσπαση προσοχής μέχρι άλλα σημαντικά ζητήματα. Είναι σαφές ότι το κινητό δεν έχει θέση στο σχολείο την ώρα της ημέρας.
Under the new rules, pupils who don't comply will be excluded from school for one day. In the case of a repeat offence, teachers have the power to remove pupils from lessons for several days. And anyone filming their classmates or their teachers without permission could face expulsion from school.
Number one.
Serbia's President Alexander Vučić has denied having close links to his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. Speaking at the GlobeSec Security Conference in Prague, Vučić said he hadn't met or spoken to Putin in the more than 2 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. Vučić acknowledged that Serbia had resisted falling in line with the rest of Europe in putting sanctions on Russia, but did say Belgrade had repeatedly condemned the invasion. Serbia and Turkey are the only EU candidate countries that have refused to impose sanctions. Vučić said he had had a great conversation with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, but admitted it was unlikely that Serbia would become an EU member state by 2028. Serbia became an EU candidate country in 2012, but has made little progress in the fields of rule of law and democratic reforms, which are the major preconditions for membership in the 27-nation bloc. Belgrade must also align its foreign policies with those of the EU, and that would include slapping sanctions on Russia.
Lisbon woke in a frenzy in the early hours of Monday as a 5.3 magnitude earthquake hit the city. No injuries or damage were reported, but everything could have been different if the earthquake was a little more intense.
A energia que foi libertada com este evento será muito pequena em relação à energia libertada por evento grande que poderá afetar Lisboa de outra maneira.
The earthquake was the 10th largest in Portugal since the 16th century and could be the object of study by geologists, even to understand future seismic events.
Vamos estudar a origem do sismo, qual foi o mecanismo que motivou o sismo. Vamos estudar como é que o sismo foi sentido em todo o continente. Será motivo para vários estudos.
The government understood the earthquake as a test to the responsiveness of authorities, but experts see it as a serious warning, given the density of population on the Portuguese capital and the lack of seismic protection in the buildings of the city.
Temos que ter atenção que as construções devem ser melhoradas. É preciso fazer alguma coisa em relação ao nosso edifício, aos edifícios. Serve de alerta para isso, sim.
Earthquakes cannot be predicted, but there is a certainty. The earth will shake again and the country needs to be ready to mitigate a possible catastrophe.